Welcome into OutKick the show. I'm your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I hope all of you are having a fantastic Tuesday. We got a lot to dive into. Want to remind you off the top that Lock It In is back. I will be live every single day, Monday to Friday, 4:30 Eastern, 3:30 Central, 2:30 Mountain, 1:30 Pacific. Set your DVRs. And you will be glad that you did. We're going to have a lot of fun. Today we're talking about the AFC North. We're, ironically enough, talking about Baker, talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers, and everyone else. I got a lot to get to. I got a lot to discuss. Baker Mayfield obviously making a lot of news. Want to tell you, make sure you go listen to Joel Klatt. If you're a college football fan, it'll help get you in the mood for Saturday's Week 0 games. Rachel Bonnetta is going to be next week's guest. But Baker Mayfield steals the day's headlines by going after Daniel Jones, Duke quarterback. There are so many things that I want to unpack about this story. Let me break it down in the larger context, okay? So we begin here. I think that in general, let me talk about newspaper and profiles in general. When you do a profile, what is chosen to represent your quotes is often not a full reflection of everything that you said. I know this as someone who has written profiles and as someone who has been the subject of profiles. There are very few people who have covered both sides of this equation. There are 5,000 word profiles that have been written on me, and I have written 5,000 word profiles, okay? So, the way this works very often is, the first time I ever had a profile written for me was the Tennessean while I was doing local radio. And I think you can still go find the transcript. I said, I'm happy to talk to you, but what I'd also like for you to do is post the entire transcript of everything that I say. And I'm looking at this from the lawyer perspective of when you're a lawyer, you get used to reading transcripts. And you get to read quotes in context, you get to see what the questions are, you get to read them in totality. So I said at the get-go, I want you to publish my entire comments. If I'm going to talk to you for 10,000 words, I want you to at least put that up so that people can go read all 10,000 words that I have said, right? I want that to be an option for anyone out there. And then you can select the quotes that you like the best to convey your story. And later times, I had like a 5,000 word piece written on me by Politico recently. And I let them talk to my wife one-on-one for like 45 minutes. They took one quote from her. I don't worry so much about people like me who make a living talking because I can contextualize everything that I say and because I have a big megaphone, whether it's on Fox Sports Radio, whether it's on FS1, whether it's on Twitter. All of those different perspectives allow me to give a big voice and respond in any way that I see fit. But when you are a player like Baker Mayfield, you have to be sophisticated enough not to say stupid things. And if you choose to do a profile, and this is going to get lost a lot in this, Baker Mayfield chose to sit for a profile with GQ magazine. I don't know whether it's like the sort of ambient noise of social media, but when you are a starting quarterback in the NFL, by and large, you don't need more media attention. What matters in terms of your relevance is winning games. Right now, look at who Baker Mayfield has beaten if you want to consider the insane hype meter out of control. Baker Mayfield is 6-7 as a starter. He has beaten Baltimore 12-9 in overtime. He beat Atlanta, who was not a playoff team. He beat Cincinnati, who was awful. He beat Carolina without Cam Newton, I believe. He beat the Denver Broncos, who were not good, by 1 point. And he beat the Bengals again. Baker Mayfield, in his entire career, has won 6 football games in the NFL. He has beaten one playoff team, and that was in overtime against the Lamar Jackson-led Baltimore Ravens, and they won 12-9 and did not score a touchdown. Okay? When you actually break this down, one two road wins in his career. He won at Denver and he won at Cincinnati. Two of his 6 wins are against the woebegone, awful Bengals. Okay? I'm not saying Baker Mayfield's not going to be good. I'm saying that he is so insanely overhyped relative to the results that he has put forward in terms of beating quality opponents that it's wild. Okay? So let's start there. Secondly, when you are talking to a writer and you decide to take a shot at another starting quarterback in the NFL or a backup quarterback or anybody in the NFL who plays quarterback, it's going to be a big story. I don't understand why you think on the record you can say, and I quote, blows my mind, some people about him getting drafted, some people overthink it, that's where people go wrong, they forget you've got to win, and then he also said, that what matters is wins and whether you can lead a team to a victory. Okay? When you take a shot at a first-round quarterback and you are another quarterback, it's going to be a huge story. Question for everybody out there. Can you remember a second-year quarterback taking a shot at any other rookie quarterback in the history of the NFL? I mean a real shot like this was, whether or not Baker Mayfield's bros want to defend it. Yes, it is a shot. When you say that you can't believe somebody went in the first round, it's a clear shot. I'll explain why Daniel Jones has become the guy to attack here in a moment. It is clearly a shot. If I say that somebody doesn't deserve their draft position or doesn't deserve the money they are making, it's a clear shot. You can agree or disagree, but don't backpedal and try to pretend that it's something other than an intentional insult. Don't backpedal like Baker Mayfield did as soon as this story goes out and claim that you didn't say it. You said it. Now, you may not like that that's the focal point of the article, and you certainly may feel like it's being taken out of context and not treated fairly, but do you know the number one way to not have something negative written about your opinion of Daniel Jones? Don't give an opinion of Daniel Jones. Baker Mayfield later said, that's not what I said. Okay, it is what you said. You may not like the way you were quoted, but unless you are accusing the writer of making up the quote, that is what you said. All right, just so we're clear. I also said, so already in the first 2 sentences of Baker Mayfield's apology, all right, he said, this is not what I said. I also said. So did you say it or did you not say it? Because you may not like the way you're being quoted, but if you say, this is not what I said, and then the next sentence you say, I also said, then you are already canceling yourself out. You are disagreeing with yourself within 2 sentences. All right, this is Baker Mayfield on Instagram. This is not what I said. I also said, if you didn't say it, then you didn't also say it. Okay, so either you are saying the quote's made up, which would be a huge scandal and would probably require the release of a full transcript, or potentially on tape, probably, I'm betting this is on tape, or you are saying that it is outside of the context, all right? I also said I was surprised I got drafted number 1, then was talking about the flaws in evaluating quarterbacks, where I brought up winning being important. Reporters and media will do anything to come up with a clickbait story, heard nothing but good things, and wish nothing but the best for Daniel. Daniel Jones, by the way, responding on Baker Mayfield, I think he's a great player. He can throw it, and I enjoy watching him play, which is hysterical. I think he's a great player. He can throw it, and I enjoy watching him play. If Daniel Jones is not Eli Manning 2.0, I can't get over how much funnier that response is. That was Eli Manning, deadpan, if I've ever seen anything before. And there's no way that Eli Manning didn't advise Daniel Jones on how to respond here. So what's the real story? What's really taking place here? Baker Mayfield is parroting a common opinion which was highly sensationalized during the NFL draft. And that opinion, which was widely shared, was that Daniel Jones shouldn't have gone. Now, I'm going to have to block this dude. Literally, you are obsessed with defending Baker Mayfield. Somebody look up this guy's contact. Maybe he went to Oklahoma. Maybe he roomed with Baker Mayfield. The dude has come in to the Periscope and spent an entire show saying that it's not a story that a starting quarterback in the NFL said that another quarterback shouldn't be a first-round draft pick. You point me to anybody that has ever said that before. Any starting quarterback that has ever seen a rookie quarterback get drafted and publicly said he shouldn't have gone where he went, okay? He didn't win enough games, which is effectively what Baker Mayfield said. First of all, every argument about whether a quarterback is going to succeed or fail, in retrospect, has an easy pathway which to follow. The truth of the matter is this. First-round quarterbacks are like coin flips. There are lots of different directions. You can say, oh, he'll never succeed. He didn't play against good enough competition. But Tony Romo succeeded. Whether you're a Romo guy or not, where he was drafted from Eastern Illinois, he succeeded at a high level. You can say Peyton Manning has happy feet, and he stayed too long in the SEC. He doesn't have a big enough arm. He's overhyped because he played at a big program and a lot of big games. He could never beat Florida. 2 Super Bowls later, Manning may be the second greatest quarterback of all time, maybe the greatest quarterback of all time if you think about what he might have been capable of if he'd been paired with Bill Belichick. You can say, oh, he went to a big school and he wasn't even good there. There's no way he's going to be great in the NFL, except Tom Brady disproves that notion. You can say, well, he went to a relatively small school, so you can't trust the stats that he put up there, except Ben Roethlisberger disproves that notion. You can say, well, he had a losing record in college, therefore he can't be any good. He's not a winner, except John Elway went 15-18 at Stanford, and Patrick Mahomes went 13-16 at Texas Tech. The point here is any argument you make is easy to refute with examples of quarterbacks who have succeeded. What Baker Mayfield did is he fell victim to a cliched talking point of sports talk radio, which he claims he abhors, and the sports media industry, where oftentimes opinions are not shared on a wide variety. Everybody ends up having the exact same opinion. How does everybody end up having the exact same opinion? Sometimes targets are easy, which explains Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is a white guy who went to Duke and played for David Cutcliffe. He is a prototypical pocket-style passer. He is an elite and privileged kid. Duke white athletes get raked over the coals more than any athletes in America today. Whether it's Grayson Allen, whether it's J.J. Redick, whether it is Steve Wojciechowski back in the day, whether there's Bobby Hurley, whether it's Christian Laettner, whether it's Cherokee Parks. It has become a cliche to bang on whoever the Duke white athlete is and say that he's not going to be successful or that he is overhyped. Everybody out there jumped on the idea in the mainstream media that the Duke lacrosse guys were guilty because they were privileged white kids from Duke. Daniel Jones is the latest privileged white kid from Duke. And so when he went number 6 overall, he got criticized in a way that he would have never gotten criticized if he were a black quarterback who had played at Duke, right? Never would have gotten ripped on the same level. Why is that? Because if Daniel Jones was the exact same quarterback, except he was black, like if you flip Daniel Jones and Dwayne Haskins, no one ripped the Washington Redskins for drafting Dwayne Haskins. Now you can say he had more success, but he went to Ohio State. He was surrounded with a ton of playmakers. The reason why Daniel Jones is a convenient target is nobody gets accused of being racist when they rip Daniel Jones. Nobody gets accused of being biased when they ripped Daniel Jones. Nobody gets accused of anything other than just good, clean sports opinion fun when they rip Daniel Jones. Therefore, there is a pile-on. I said this back when Daniel Jones got drafted in April. I said, look, it's hard to project who's going to be successful and who's going to fail in the first round of the NFL draft. I've been right and I've been wrong, just like NFL teams have. It's essentially a coin flip. It's like screaming heads or tails, and then when it turns up tails, you being like, I knew it was going to be tails. I told you all along it was going to be tails. And if it turns up heads, you scream, I knew it was going to be heads. I told you all along it was going to be heads. And then you go back over whatever the narrative check marks were in a negative, and you turn them into the reason why the failure occurred. The truth of the matter is this. It's hard to predict who's going to be a good quarterback in the NFL, and historically, college prediction is not actually that valid. Winning percentage isn't either. If it were, Tim Tebow would be unstoppable. And so, by the way, would a guy like Akili Smith. And so would Kellen Moore, who won more games at Boise State than anybody. There are a lot of guys who win at a high level in college and play college football at a high level that aren't very good at the next level. And the same is true everywhere. And these are people who have sat and watched every throw, as opposed to like your average prognosticator or your average fan who might not have watched Daniel Jones play a football game all year long. Now, I watch everybody play. I watch college football from 11 a.m. Central my time when it kicks off until 1 or 2 o'clock in the evening at night when it finishes. I have seen everybody play. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. Sometimes the guy doesn't fit the right offense. Sometimes he has a bad game in the big games that you end up watching him. Okay? If you questioned whether or not sometimes media prognosticators have no idea what they're talking about, recall that Stephen A. Smith said that Dwayne Haskins was more of a running quarterback than a passing quarterback. For anybody who had watched even a half of Dwayne Haskins' career, you knew that he was actually not very athletic, and he stood in the pocket. Stephen A. Smith used his race as a proxy for athleticism. In fact, Dwayne Haskins was the worst athlete among the quarterbacks who performed at the NFL Combine. He barely broke, I think it was, 5 seconds in the 40. Daniel Jones is a much better athlete than Dwayne Haskins is. He may be a better thrower. In fact, through 2 preseason games, of all of the guys who went in the first round, Haskins, guy who went in the second round, Drew Lock, Daniel Jones, and Kyler Murray, Jones has been the best. So wasn't just Baker Mayfield took a shot at him, which is clearly a story. It was that he took a shot at him using a tired cliche, which was predicated on, to a large extent, Daniel Jones being a privileged white guy from Duke. And so when he gets what some people considered to be a privileged standing in the draft, they decided to actually go after him in the media. It's fascinating to see this story, and then athletes themselves end up buying into it. Now, Baker Mayfield has since apologized, says he roots for him to be successful or whatever the heck he said in his statement. But the point is he said it, and it's a big story. And somebody's pointing up Brett Favre's Southern Miss stats. You can go through any successful Hall of Fame quarterback, and when they entered the league, there were huge red flags, and there were huge reasons why you thought they could be good. Remember, Peyton Manning versus Ryan Leaf has turned into one of the most amazing 1 versus 2 debates of all time. Ryan Leaf is out of the league within a couple of years, becomes a drug addict, has since gotten control of his life, more power to him. But there were tons of people out there back in 1999 who were, 1998 I guess, 1998, who were saying Peyton Manning was not worthy of being the number 1 overall pick, and he was a total hype machine. And in fact, a lot of those comments were totally wrong. Carson Wentz didn't even play in FBS. Again, there are tons of reasons why a guy can be successful or not successful. So I think this is an example of Baker Mayfield, ironically enough, following the media hype and saying what so many other people in media had already said before. All right, Jimmy G was awful. Jimmy G was atrocious. We talked about Kyler Murray's second preseason game. Jimmy G came back, and he was 1 for 6, 0 yards passing, and a 0.0 passer rating. Not good. Threw an interception. Jimmy G, 5-year, $137 million contract. Now, I was a not Monday morning quarterback doubter on Jimmy G. I said there wasn't enough data to justify how much money he got paid. Jimmy G is actually Baker Mayfield 2.0 potentially, right? Baker Mayfield came in. I just ran you through a list of games that he won. Last year at this time, everybody was in love with the San Francisco 49ers. Jimmy G was going to be unstoppable. Did you see the way he finished his season? He was the hot thing, right? the 49ers were a Super Bowl pick. Everybody anticipated him being good. He tears his ACL in week 3. Remember, Jimmy G goes out with the porn star. Huge topic of discussion. Everybody's convinced that Jimmy G is going to be the next great thing. I said, you know what? There hasn't actually been that many games that he's played. And this is where I always say tap the pause button. In the NFL, when you go from year 1 to year 2, there's a lot of one-hit wonders. Just like in music, you can come out with one great song, or an author can come out with one great book, but you don't have the wherewithal to consistently do it over and over again. Tim Tebow, one-hit wonder. Vince Young, one-hit wonder. RG3, one-hit wonder. There are a lot of guys out there that posted really good rookie years or really good second years, first time the NFL sees them, and then you never hear from them again. That's because ultimately, and I've been on this for a long time, I don't know why this isn't a cliche, but it should be, the NFL is a third down passing league. You tell me what a guy's going to do on 3rd and long when everybody in the stadium and everybody on the defense and everybody on the opposing coaching staff knows that he's going to have to drop back and throw for a first down. That's the only thing that can't be consistently stopped. All right? Only thing that can't be consistently stopped is a quarterback who can drop back to pass and convert third downs on 3rd and long when everybody knows he's going to pass and everybody in the pass defense is trying to confuse him. That's hard to do. So Jimmy G, he didn't even play enough games for us to know whether he evolved as a quarterback. Baker Mayfield comes in, beats the Cincinnati Bengals twice, beats one team in overtime that makes the playoffs, playing against Lamar Jackson. They win without scoring a touchdown. And now you start to look at it and you say, man, could Baker Mayfield be Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns be this year's version of Jimmy G and the San Francisco 49ers? Perhaps. I'm going to talk about that tomorrow on my radio show. There's a possibility of that being the case. So we'll see whether or not it's the case. I know there's a lot of hype in Cleveland, but my big thing on Jimmy G is he hasn't played enough games. My big thing on Baker, he hasn't played that many games. There's reason for excitement. There's reason for positivity, but there's an awful lot of sophomore slumps in the NFL that would also give you pause about his ability to continue to succeed. NFL defenses have spent an entire offseason trying to perfect what Baker Mayfield does the worst, and they're going to make him do it over and over and over again. Has Baker put in the time to work on what he does poorly, or has he been more focused on being a celebrity, on drinking beers, on taking shots at other quarterbacks, on going after Colin Cowherd, on being obsessed with what others are saying about him? It's an interesting question. I am intrigued to see how exactly this is going to shake out. Regardless of what you think about him, Baker Mayfield has got one hell of a story to tell, and people care. So we'll see what ends up happening with Baker Mayfield in year 2. What's funny about the Browns is the Browns, I said and continue to say, are the 3rd most interesting team in the NFL right now. Number 1 most interesting team, I still think New England Patriots. Brady and Belichick, most interesting. Number 2 most interesting team in the NFL, I think, probably the Dallas Cowboys. What's going to happen with Dak? What's going to happen with Zeke? What's going to happen with Jerry Jones? What's going to happen with Amari Cooper? Number three, this is intriguing. How about the Cleveland Browns? If you had to draft a team that you think could be decent, the Cleveland Browns would be the number 3 pick, all right? The Cleveland Browns would be the number 3 pick overall. And we already got the Baker Mayfield comments. They're overshadowing Odell Beckham Jr.'s comments, which are more interesting perhaps. He said this about his trade from the Giants to the Browns. This wasn't no business move. This was personal. They thought they'd send me here to die. Odell Beckham Jr. says that the Giants turned down better offers to send him to the Browns because they thought he would go there and die. This is intriguing on so many different levels. I don't believe that an NFL team would turn down a better offer just out of spite with a team. But Odell Beckham Jr. still obsessed with the Giants. It appears that for some reason Baker Mayfield cares about the Giants because he's taking a shot at Daniel Jones. This is a story worth following as we move forward. What I think some of these young guys don't understand is they've got all the attention. Maybe they're not seeing it in their social media feeds, and so it makes them think people aren't talking about them or paying attention to them. But if you are a star wide receiver or a star quarterback in the NFL, you're going to get more attention than you can possibly bargain for. Tom Brady and Peyton Manning became superstars long before social media existed. Peyton Manning is not on Twitter sharing his thoughts on a moment-by-moment basis. Tom Brady, until he decided he wanted to sell his TB12 method, was not on social media either. Both of them became transcendent superstars. Michael Jordan was never on social media. Charles Barkley is probably the most influential guy in all of sports media, and he's not on social media. Big stars don't need social media. They're stars without needing social media. That's why they're stars. People talk about them. They don't need to talk. I think LeBron James would probably be as big or bigger of a star if he had never gotten on social media. It's an intriguing thesis to follow. People like me need social media. People don't know what I think necessarily. I got to share my opinions to get an audience to care about my opinions. People don't care about athlete opinions. They care about whether or not you're good at your game and whether you dominate your sport. If you dominate your sport, you never need to get on social media. Social media is good for the fringe guys in athletics. Guys who are on the offensive line that nobody knows and want a career in media. Guys who are borderline NFL draft picks. Guys who are borderline NFL roster guys. Kawhi Leonard's not on social media, and his free agency was the biggest story in the NFL last year. If you are great, stories find you. You don't have to find stories. Good advice for Baker Mayfield, Odell Beckham Jr., and everybody else who's young and thinks that social media is the way to getting a lot of attention. Finally, this is a big story. Even though Michael Avenatti, you guys might not like him because he's been in a feud with Donald Trump ongoing for years, representing Stormy Daniels. It is a big story that Nike has been paying high school athletes, some as young as 12 and 13 years old, tens of thousands of dollars to wear their product, violating every possible precept of NCAA rule, and most people have been ignoring it, trying to pretend that Adidas is the bad guy and Nike has done nothing wrong. I think this story is going to continue to grow, but one of the angles of the story that I find to be the most fascinating is this. Everybody likes to debate whether or not players should be paid in college. My argument for you would be this. If you're decent, you're getting paid already. Adidas was made to wear the black hat, and Nike was made to wear the white hat. Rick Pitino and other Adidas school coaches were made by the federal government to look like they were doing things that Nike was not, when in reality, it may be the case that Nike was actually behaving in a more egregious fashion than Adidas was. I think we got some good old-fashioned American protectionism going on here. I think the fact that Adidas is a German company was the reason that Adidas ended up being the focal point of that investigation. And I think the reason that Nike didn't was because they are an American company. I think this is shameless in its injustice and the way that the law was slanted to favor an American company against a German company. Make Adidas look bad, hurt their business, give Nike unfettered access. Again, in the trial, Adidas kept saying, the guys who were being charged with crimes and were being sent to prison, do you think we were bidding against ourselves? If we were giving a guy $100,000, it was because Nike wanted to give him $90,000. If you're only bidding against yourself, then you could have signed everybody for $5,000 cash. Instead, Nike and Adidas were competing for the best high school players all year and years long. All right, I appreciate all of you. I will be live at 4:30 Eastern, 3:30 Central, 2:30 Mountain, 1:30 Pacific. Go read the website. Anonymous Mailbag is up today. Go listen to the podcast, OutKick, the coverage up today, and Wins and Losses, my long-form conversation with Joel Klatt. It's fantastic. Going to have Rachel Bonetta later today. Meant to say, The Athletic has hit 600,000 subscribers. Sorry, I forgot to talk about that topic. The Athletic has hit 600,000 subscribers. Congrats to them. The big question I've had about internet content for a long time is this one. When were we going to move from a model that rewarded quality over quantity? Most of pop culture rewards quality over quantity. The way that the internet compensated writers was by awarding quantity, i.e. page views, over the quality of the content that was created. I think we're starting to see a circle back in the other direction, which is more common to everything else. For instance, HBO doesn't produce 100 crappy shows. They produce like 7 or 8 really fantastic shows. What I think has happened in media, and certainly this has become a big part of sports media, is everyone is competing based on the metric of page views, which drives down the overall value of advertising. What The Athletic has decided is it makes more sense to go subscription-based, provide high-quality content on a relatively limited amount of audience. And it's fascinating to think about. The Athletic's game plan is we'd rather have, right now, 600,000 people who love us and are paying for our content than 16 million or 26 million or 36 million casual readers who will not actually pay for the quality of the content. And if you are a writer who believes that quality content should matter, I think that is a very healthy idea that 600,000 people are willing to pay for quality over quantity. My name is Clay Travis. I appreciate all of you. DBAP unless you need to SBAP. Congrats to The Athletic on 600,000. Follow the show. Share whatever you like. I will see you guys later today, 4:30, 3:30, 2:30, 1:30, whether you are on the East Coast or all the way on the West Coast. Lock it in this afternoon. See y'all. Bye. Love you. Thank you, Facebook.